We get asked a lot, why does it cost so dadgum much money to fix a Macintosh computer? I'm Woody Huffines. I own the Nerds to Go in McKinney and Frisco, Texas, and this is Tech for the Untechnical. It's very true that for most of our customers, if they have to repair a computer and the computer that they're repairing is an Apple computer, that it's significantly more expensive than if they're doing the same kind of thing, same kind of repair to a Windows machine. Well, why is that? Well, basically it's economics. I know, a technical guy talking about economics. I'm familiar with the Macintosh computers because my first computer was just like that one over my shoulder there. 128K of RAM. My laptop now probably has 32,000 times more RAM. I'm talking gigabytes versus kilobytes. Anyway, the biggest reason that Mac computers are as expensive to repair as they are is that Apple has the market cornered. They don't sell parts to anybody. Nobody makes any parts for their computers but themselves. All their software, Macintosh, they have a cornered market. They have a little fence that they've built around what they do. Now, yes, it makes it more expensive to buy. It makes it more expensive to repair the Macintosh computers. So why is it worth it? Well, the first thing is because they control the hardware and they control the software. That means that all that stuff works together just fine. How often, if you have a PC computer, are you having a problem because Google and Microsoft and HP and Dell and Compaq and all these different manufacturers don't play nicely together? Well, that's the challenge of a Windows machine. The parts and the cost of repair is probably going to be lower because the market is so large that lots of people will make that part, and there's competition for making those parts. Just like anything else, if you have competition usually raises the quality and lowers the cost. It's the way the market works. Higher quality, lower cost. But the same thing is also true in the Macintosh world. Since they don't have competition, any place that you have a monopoly, what happens in a monopoly? The price goes up and quality goes down because they don't have anybody to compete with them. Now, I'm not saying that Macintosh are low quality computers in and of themselves, although there are some things about the materials that they use in the internals of the Macintosh computers that my technicians aren't that fond of. But the fact remains that if you have the market cornered and you don't have anybody to compete with, you can charge what you want and give the service that you want. And as long as people are willing to buy that thing, you can charge what you want for it. So why are people wanting to buy that thing? Well, because Macintosh computers work. There's an ecosystem, whether it's iCloud and iPhone and AirDrop and all that stuff that works together in the Macintosh world is integrated very tightly. And it's integrated very tightly and it works together very well because only one person's playing in that pool. When a software company does something on the PC side, especially if it's something that's going to interface with drivers, HP printers, Epson printers, Brother printers, on, because the drivers are different on all those devices, then Windows has to accommodate all those different device drivers. A device driver is a piece of software that allows one piece of software or one piece of hardware to talk to another piece of hardware, essentially. So when you've got umpty squat different PC manufacturers, Asus and Dell and you know the list, and each one of them has a motherboard. Now, there's fewer motherboard makers now than there used to be. There's a whole bunch of different parts that have to be integrated and work well together. And you get lower cost for those parts because there's competition to build motherboards, there's competition to build printers, and there's competition to build these things. So that lowers the price. But it makes it more complex to work together. So it's not a seamless user experience the way that people get on the Macintosh. And they're willing to pay higher prices and generally not as fast, a little bit lower quality, to get that integrated user experience. I tell people all the time, if you want to program in Unix and futz around at the very highest level of computers, Macintoshes are a lot of fun to mess with. Or if you just want to click and point and grunt and surf the web and check email, Macintoshes are great. But there's a whole bunch of stuff in between where you need a little bit more capability than bottom line capability, and you're not into hacking the OS that you would in a Macintosh world, and that's where those Windows machines are relatively decent. And they're also good because of interoperability. If you are working for a company, if you're in a Fortune 500 company or just about any company, you probably have a Windows machine at work. And if you have a Macintosh at home, it makes it more difficult for you to bring work home, which some days seems like that's probably a pretty good deal. So anyway, why are Macintosh repairs so expensive? That's because Mac doesn't sell parts. If you bring your Macintosh to us and we have to replace a part, we have to go find a refurbished part, which means that if your computer's new, then enough of them haven't failed that the refurbished parts are out there. This week, somebody brought in a 2-year-old MacBook Pro, and they had a board problem. One of the chips on the board was broken. It just, who knows, computer thing, and chip went bad. That motherboard, to replace that motherboard, was $1,250. That's because there's a very small supply of relatively new parts. The second thing that you've got to remember is Macintosh, Apple, does not put out their schematics. They actively, through their processes, their procedures, and the information they put out, they actively try to prevent people from doing repairs on their computer if they're not an Apple technician in an Apple store, getting paid for by Apple. So the parts are expensive because they're hard to get. You can't buy them on the open market. There's no competition. The market's smaller. That's why it costs dang much money to fix a Macintosh or an Apple computer. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing. It's where you want to put your money. If you want an integrated user experience that's really easy to deal with because nothing ever changes on it, Macintosh is awesome. If you want a lower cost and a lower repair cost, Windows will do the job. But there's a give and take there. And not one side or the other is right or wrong. It's just what you prefer. If you have any questions about it, give us a call because I know my technicians have opinions about it. I'm Woody Huffines. I own the Nerds to Go in McKinney and Frisco, Texas. This is Tech for the Untechnical. Hit the subscribe button below, mash the notification bell, give me a thumbs up, and comment. Windows? PC? Apple? Macintosh? Which do you prefer?